Hello and welcome to the latest edition of Hearts Standards briefing thing that we didn't get to the bottom of last time when we spoke in terms of a name. I need to come up with a name, so we might spitball some ideas. Or if you want to give us ideas, go for it. I am joined, of course, by James Kearney as we are going to discuss a few things. We're going to look back at the St Johnstone game from midweek. Heart of Midlothian won again, 1-0 at McDiarmid Park to take the unbeaten run to, what is it now?
Well, unbeaten run. 13 without defeat, is it not?
No, it's 10. I think it's 10 in all competitions, and 12 of the last 15 in the league.
That's right.
Wins.
Yeah, that's right.
That's that got there in the end. So we'll look back at the win over St Johnstone. Shankland of course scored, taking his tally for the club to 50. The quickest player to do it since Willie Bald. He's in the top 10 of Hearts players to reach, like in terms of fastest to reach 50 goals. And again, the first person to do it in these first two seasons since Willie Bald. We will discuss new contracts about that were signed by Craig Gordon and Macaulay Tait, and of course we'll look ahead to Sunday's Scottish Cup fifth round clash with Airdrieonians, which has an unfortunate kick-off time, but I mean that's just complaining for the sake of complaining. But let's start with St Johnstone game. James, what did you make of it?
Honestly, wasn't the most entertaining game in the world.
No.
I remember before when we did the pod before the match saying that I thought it'd maybe be quite similar to the game at Tynecastle earlier in the season. One of Craig Levine's first games in charge. It probably wouldn't be as exciting as a Dundee game, for instance. And yeah, I think that probably is exactly how it transpired. I thought it was. I didn't find it the most entertaining game I've ever watched. That first half in particular was rotten. Let's face it. Nothing happened.
Yeah.
But Hearts got the goal shortly after the restart, and they didn't really ever look as if they were. You touched on it in your analysis piece, so I won't step on your toes. But as soon as Hearts went ahead, St Johnstone didn't really have a sniff to us over the course of the 90 minutes. I didn't think they really offered much in attack. And to be fair, Hearts weren't much better at the other end, to be fair. But obviously, Hearts have got Lawrence Shankland, and every so often he can just do a couple of wonderful things, and then it's 1-0 up, and the game's it's a long way back. So I think that I'd probably describe it as like solid but unspectacular. I think that's probably my take on it all.
I think John in the YouTube comments here also kind of nails it. Quietly efficient, the term I'm using with increasing frequency. Yeah, it was quietly efficient. And in terms of the first half, we were kind of talking just like it was because you were working from your house. I was at McDiarmid Park, and we were kind of just chatting over text, just like, yeah, nothing much is happening. And I believe Robert Borthwick described it as the nil-nillest of nil-nils. And I don't think there's a better description for that first half, where I actually thought, watched at the time and watching it back, I thought Hearts started really not really well, but started well. First 25 minutes, there was real control. St Johnstone were pinned back, didn't really get their own half. Again, some of that was by their own design, that they didn't want to engage with Hearts higher up the pitch. But on the kind of the two sides of it, the ending games and starting games, certainly away from home over the years, Hearts have not been strong at either. Mm-hmm. But I thought both were real positives, and it was just that kind of the first 25 minutes just looked like Celtic or Rangers going away to St Johnstone or Motherwell Kilmarnock, where they control possession, they control the pitch, they move the ball about. I think the only thing that was lacking in the first 25 minutes was that creativity in the final third. And like you said, that was something that was lacking across the 90 minutes. You look at the goal, it's the goal itself. I mean, it's a great finish, but it's not like we carved St Johnstone open. It was a long pass from Frankie Kent that Lawrence Shankland made something out of, or it can basically a goal out of what was very, very little.
Yeah, I mean, I think you had that great line in the instant analysis where you said that he's a man that makes, scraps look like a buffet.
Yeah.
And that's exactly what it is. Yes, in fact, it's not even a half chance, is it? It's like you say. He said afterwards he He locked eyes with Frankie Kent. Started making the run. But I mean, again, like I kind of touched on this as well from something for the site that went up this morning. See if you had to show someone a little 10 seconds of Shankland and saying this is why he's so good.
Yep.
You could do a hell of a lot worse than that 10 seconds because again, you see him, he gets the run breaking off the shoulder of the man. He's just onside. He then has to slow down, check his run because the ball. So he gets underneath the ball, uses his body brilliantly to just maneuver the defender out the way. Gets forward. There's a little invention of the wee dink over McGowan, and then there's the absolute ice cold composure to just slot it in. And he never looked for a second as if he wasn't going to score. And I just think that the obviously we talk about Shankland a lot and with good reason. And I think that the things that we talk about a lot, I think you could see them all in that goal. The strength of the build-up play, the immense finishing in front of goal, the little clever touches and invention that it can sometimes take to trick an opponent and buy yourself that half yard of space that you need. I just thought it was an absolutely brilliant goal, and it really encapsulated everything that makes him such an impressive player for Hearts. So I thought it was a really nice moment. But let's be honest, it was probably the only nice moment over the course of the 90 minutes. It was a bit of a tough watch, but again, the most important thing was that similar to the Dundee game at the weekend, it was another tricky away match. It was a completely different scenario, completely different type of match the Hearts were going into. But similar to the Dundee game, they found a way to win. They found a way to get the goal, get the 3 points, and get up the road. And of course, it's another clean sheet as well. So it's difficult to be very negative about it at all, to be honest. I think most Hearts fans would take boring 1-0 wins if between the end of the season. That'd be fine because if you do that, then you're going to be pushing for Champions League or something like that. So I think that a little bit more entertainment wouldn't have gone amiss, but I think it's because the kind of game it was going away. We know what St Johnstone are like, we know what Craig Levine's like, we know what kind of game it's going to be. So I think that to get the goal, get the 3 points up the road, that's about as much as you could probably have realistically hoped for.
Yeah, I mean, I think there's still. You see, if this was back in December, you'd be like, it's still a wee bit turgid. The football's not great to watch, not very entertaining, not scoring a lot of goals. But now it's came after scoring 2 against Aberdeen, scoring 3 against Dundee twice, just looking more threatening in the final third, the change in the formation. I do think it's you kind of accept these kind of performances or games more, and even more so when you're on such a good run. You're just like, just keep that run going, which is that momentum going, which is obviously really important. So yeah, you'd like to be a bit more of a threat in the final third and want to be a bit more exciting, enjoyable. But although Hearts, we didn't look like building on the lead and getting a second and third, the flip side never looked like conceding a goal, never looked like allowing St John's to come back in the game. Like I said in a couple of the analysis pieces we put on the site, that was the lowest opposition XG in the league. So basically, Hearts kept St Johnstone at bay for the majority of the game. The best chance was some boys, one of their substitutes, shot over blazed it well over the bar. He'd have done really well to score him. I think that's probably one of the biggest positives as a team dynamic that I took away from it, was just how good Hearts were when they were, or their mentality when they were ahead. That you've seen it so many times before, and it's not just a Hearts thing, but I think just teams in general. When they get away from home in the lead, they'll kind of just sit deeper, protect what they have. But Hearts kind of try to engage the St Johnstone much further up the pitch and make it difficult for them to play out. And there was never any sustained period where St Johnstone were penning Hearts in or making it difficult for Hearts.
No, exactly. I think, like you say, it was very measured in that sense. In that, okay, yeah, it would have been nice if Hearts were kind of going hell for leather, trying to get another goal. But like you say, that then leaves them more vulnerable at the back. And the more important thing is actually don't concede it. The margin of victory is not important. The most important thing is to get the victory. And just on your point as well about you saying that, maybe a month or two ago, that kind of performance happens, people start grumbling. I think it's because, again, let's be frank, a couple of months ago, those kind of performances in terms of attacking, those were the norm. And, games where Hearts were looking good and scoring lots of goals, those were the exception. Whereas now it's the other way around. Like you said, the last 4 or 5 games, Hearts have been scoring goals. They've found different scorers. Well, it's not been all through Shankland. So if you're getting games where, it finishes 3-2, then a 3-2, and a 2-0 and all this, and then you get one game where, okay, you get a 1-0 and it's not the most pretty or entertaining, you can go, well, okay, well, fine. We had, we weren't at our best that afternoon, but that's the exception now. The rule is actually that Hearts tend to be a lot better.
And that's the thing, you can't have steak, caviar, and red wine all the time. You sometimes have to have beans on toast and milk. And some beans on toast and milk, I like it.
Fair, yeah, I like the analogy. Give us more beans on toast, please.
In terms of the team, probably not much. We'll come to one of the main points, the name of the podcast or the briefing we're doing. We'll kind of look at that just in a second, but I kind of want to look individually. There wasn't too many individuals to speak about, but the one player that really stood out for me and wrote about it for the analysis piece that went up this morning on the game was Callum Nieuwenhof. I thought that was arguably his best game in a Hearts jersey, and I remember being at McDermott Park and watching. I think, he's had a really strong start, and we talked about that at half time, and then I thought he faded. And I was speaking to a mate yesterday. He said the exact same. He was like, I thought he got about the pitch really well in the open stages, but then faded. And again, someone messaged me on Twitter said very similar. But then watching it back, he was just he was just a wee bit more. He kind of just was more subtle in his influence after the break, but. I would love to know how much distance he covered, because he was everywhere in terms of kind of three-way midfielder. He was breaking forward with his really positive runs. He was closing down and getting about the pitch, and then with use of the ball as well was tidy. A lot under pressure. He was he wasn't always playing it safe, but he was keeping he was giving Hearts a lot of control.
Yeah, and that's something that. Obviously, I think that when he was first signed, that's what supporters thought he'd be doing week in, week out. That was the kind of player that I think fans were expecting to see. And yeah, it's taken him a wee while, I think, to get going. I'm sure Nieuwenhof himself and Naismith have both admitted that, yeah, he's taking a lot of time to acclimatise. He's still finding his feet. But when you look at a player of his age and his profile and the amount of minutes he gets, you do need him to have to start really influencing games. And like you say, whether that's by, grabbing the game by the scruff of the neck and, charging forward, or if it's, like you say, just a little more subtle things about just keeping possession, keeping his shape, making sure that, he's stretching the opposition defence by making the right runs. All those little things, like you say, they do add up and make a big difference. And I think for Nieuwenhof now, the challenge between now and the end of the season, at least, anyway, has to be he needs to start doing that more consistently, because there have been games where he has looked tidy, or there has been games where he's looked really solid for large chunks of it, and then there's been other games as well where he's looked lost at times. He's just been kind of wandering around the park and he doesn't really look as if he knows what he wants to do. So again, really encouraging to see him have a good performance, and again, definitely a really good indication of what he can bring to this Hearts team. Again, we just need to see it a wee bit more. I think that's the big thing.
Yeah, that's it. We want him to be, a lot of times, just like you said, being lost, or he just seems lost in midfield. And you just want him to be more assertive. And I really noticed it on Wednesday, just how much he was demanding of his teammates in terms of wanting the ball, in terms of running off the ball and asking for it, running beyond Shankland and getting up in support and running, kind of getting in that final third, which I think Hearts fans want to see more of from the midfield. So yeah, very, very encouraging. Do we say anything else about Shankland? Yep, great, 50. It came as we expected. I don't know what else to say other than bringing up an article you wrote back in maybe November, I think, or start of December, looking at when he could score his 50th goal, and it's safe to say underestimated it.
Yeah, so I've not got the exact figures to hand, but by that point, going by his goal scoring form of this season. At that point, I was like, I did the maths, and it kind of churned out the number. I think it was the 36th game of the season, league game of the season, so 2 games before the end of before the final match. And obviously, he's done it in about, was it 25 games he's done it in now? Is that right? 25 games we're on? Yeah, 25. So, yeah, I mean, he's absolutely smashed that target as well. So again, I thought it'd take him till at least another couple of months until he could get to this point, and yeah, here he is again. So it just shows you that even when it comes to breaking records, he's even doing them faster than anticipated. Just everything he does is extremely good. And yeah, there's not really much more to say at this point. Yeah, just enjoy him.
Yeah, that's it. He's. I asked on Twitter after the games, like, has there been a more influential player for Hearts and X amount of years? And a lot of people did say most influential since Rudy Scatchell. I think he's more impactful, more influential than when Scatchell, because Scatchell was often, you would play on the periphery of games and then come up with those match-winning moments, whereas Shankland is, I think, much more of a talismanic figure. He's much more involved. He does a lot more than Scatchell, which and Scatchell did certainly did loads. So yeah, I think he's past him again. When you get into legendary status, Scatchell scored in 2 Scottish Cup final wins, including the double against Hibs. So he's still got a wee bit to go on that side of things. So before we move on, just kind of going back to some of the stuff we were saying about the progression of Hearts, I think John does make a few good points, and that one was better summed up by saying it feels like we're moving from passing for passing's sake to actually probing with movement of the ball. I think that's a really good point to make. Over the last few weeks, it does look like the team are evolving and stepping up the way that they're attacking teams and moving the ball into the final third. Before we move on to talk about the contracts that were recently signed, just want to ask, do you think there's a chance? So Hearts, their points record tally in the top flight is 74. It was 2005, 2006. Now, this is only in the season's 3 points for a win. I've not looked at how many points would have finished on in the seasons that we had 2 points for a win. Yeah. So 48 points. We're on 48 points just now. And I think the projected, if you look at the average points per game over the season so far, I think we're projected to get to 72. Do you think they could get to 75? That would mean 27 points across the next 13 games. So essentially winning 9 of 13.
I don't mean to be a negative Nancy, but no, I don't see that happening. I mean, maybe it's possible. Obviously, it'd be fantastic. But the way I look at it is that I think over the last 10 games or so, I think it's fair to suggest Hearts have overperformed in terms of their points return. I don't think many people have said, they'll get 20 out of the next available 30 at the start of that run. You know, that is overperformance. They deserve the points, they've been worth it, but come on. The flip side of that, of course, is at the start of the season, there's that opening 6, 7, 8 games where they were underperforming massively in terms of the amount of points they should have been getting from those matches. So the way I look at it is that between that spell at the start of the season, this one at the moment, the points tally at the moment is probably a fair reflection of the team's fortunes. I think that's just because I think that pretty much the 2 runs of over and underperformance just about balance themselves out. So then you look at it, you go, 25 games in, 48 points, so what's that, just shy of 2 points a game. You know, extrapolate it out, like you say, you get just under the 74 point mark. But then the other thing to remember as well, of course, is that the final 5 games of the season are, on paper, at least the hardest, in that you're playing the split. You know, you're not playing, you're not getting the odd game against, teams that are fighting to stay up. It's, it's going to be in a split where chances are there's going to be a title race going on between Celtic and Rangers. They'll be absolutely desperate for points. It looks as if, it could be going to the wire at this stage. That's going to be difficult. You're not going to be playing a Celtic team or a Rangers team that are kind of, on the sunbeds already, thinking about their holidays because they've already wrapped up the championship. Below Hearts as well, look at 4th, 5th, 6th. You would imagine that all those spots will be getting challenged for and fought over right up until the very last. So I guess my point is that I think that when Hearts go into the split, they will face a higher standard of opposition than you do over the course of the season anyway. But the other side of it as well is the fact that not only are they playing a better standard of opposition, but they're playing a better standard of opposition who arguably have more to play for than Hearts, because by that point Hearts might well have 3rd wrapped up. So I would think that I think 74 is I think that's a bit much, but I think certainly if breaching the 70 point barrier though, that would be an absolutely incredible season, and I think that shouldn't be beyond the realms of possibility. I wouldn't have said so.
Yeah, I think you have pretty much summed up my feelings as well in terms of the difficulty in getting that 9 wins out of 13. It's a tall order considering they've just won 12 out of 15. It was just kind of trying to prolong that. But I think the important thing is, the two important factors for me is something I need to look into. Hearts, certainly over the last few years, when they have just in general, other than maybe last season, last season was the point of case, tend to kind of fall away in the final, maybe not final third, but final quarter of the season. It's certainly over the years, like when we finished third under Nielsen after coming back up from the Championship. It just felt like for a few seasons running, the season was over by March, and the performances and results reflected that. Whereas I do think that there should be a different mentality this time around. I don't think Naismith will stand for just allowing people to take their foot off the accelerator, so to speak. But yeah, like you said, Hearts have only breached the 70-point mark once, and that was at 2005-2006 in the top flight. That is, and considering the start of the season that we had, to get that would be just an absolutely incredible achievement for the squad, and considering all that gone through in terms of the doubts, the criticism, scepticism of the management team, of the direction they were going, but slowly surely it's been turned around, and I do think it's doable, and if they do it, then it would be absolutely brilliant to see. Let's move on to contracts. This week we have had Craig Gordon sign a new deal, extended his stay until 2025, and then this afternoon it was announced that Macaulay Tait had signed a 4-year deal, taking him to 2028. Did I say Craig Gordon was 2028? Craig Gordon 2025.
Yeah.
Craig Gordon 2025 and Macaulay Tait 2028. So yeah, I think both were relatively easy to get done on the club's part for the players as well, and I think they were just two smart bits of business.
Yeah, like you say, I think it's all fairly straightforward stuff, isn't it? I mean, you've got, on the one hand, you've got Craig Gordon, club legend, who's just came back from that terrible injury. You're not going to chuck him out in his backside, after comes back into Spartans and right, thanks Craig, see you later, good luck. Nah, come on, he was always going to sign. And then the other one's Macaulay Tait, who has impressed in the first team recently, coming from the academy, from the B team. Obviously, he's got every incentive to sign. And again, it's two no-brainers, to be honest. Two very obvious deals that, if they didn't get done, you'd have to ask very serious questions.
I also think the deals are interesting in the two different, two guys at different stages of their careers and what they bring to the squad. So you look at Craig Gordon, and I think it's going to be the case that he's going to just sign 1-year deals each season, see how he's faring, and then decide from there. Because I think he's someone who's got certainly ambition to play, obviously, next season. I think maybe 1 or 2 seasons more. As long as he's fit, as long as he's feeling fine, he will look to play, because he wants to break records. He wants to play football. He wants to play for Hearts. I know he can become the oldest player to ever play for Scotland. So he's got all these wee milestones that he wants to tick off, and he'll be desperate to finish his career as like a number one, having played games, and to kind of go out on his own terms, which is important considering the 3 serious injuries he's had. That I think it's got to the point where he deserves to go out on his own, own terms, but also just his experience within the squad. And I think it's important to have someone like him in any squad, but with Hearts, who knows the club, gets the club, kind of knows what it's like coming through the club as well. And that's where you look at Macaulay Tait as someone who's coming through from the academy. Aidan Denham signed a new deal earlier in the season. Hearts really want to strengthen that pathway between the academy into the first team. And I think Macaulay Tait, I think Naismith said that when he spoke on this kind of statement on Hearts, the website, that he never had any doubt that Tait was going to make the step up. And already we've seen it in these 5 substitute appearances that he looks like he's ready for this level, and he's going to be a really key player for Hearts to come for years to come. And it's really exciting to see him just at 18 and looking so mature in the midfield when he does get his chance.
No, exactly. That's the right word for it. It's mature. It's the position that he plays and the demands that are asked of him. they're not easy for anyone to do, never mind an 18-year-old taking his first steps into the professional game, So I think that you're right, he has given a really good account of himself. He has looked, whenever he's played, he's not looked as if he doesn't belong at that level or anything like that. I think you're right. It's just, he's a player who hopefully between now and the end of the season we'll start to see him get a few more minutes, maybe even a start or two. That'd be great to see. And then hopefully then you think looking ahead to next season and start trying to just increase that game time over and over, and hopefully he takes his chance. But certainly looks like a really talented player, very technical. Again, like you say, very composed on the ball, which is one of those things which is incredibly difficult to coach. Like, I think you either are or you aren't, to be honest. So yeah, he looks to have a really bright future. And of course, like you say as well, it's always encouraging to have that pathway between the academy, the B team, moving up to the senior squad, because well, that's why it exists. And, everyone loves a homegrown player, don't we? We all like a local lad.
Exactly. That's what I was just going to say. It's really exciting for the fans to have someone come through, someone who is a Hearts fan like Aidan Denham as well, that they do get a bit more time, and it does bring a bit more of a buzz and excitement around the crowd, that they look at the guys like, oh, they're a Hearts fan just like me, and they know the club, they want to be here, etc., etc. So yeah, two great bits of business kind of following on from Craig Halkett signed a new deal, Liam Boyce, Alan Forrest, and Denham earlier on in the season. So you're just keeping that core together, and I think it's really important in terms of squad building.
Just to check on that then, so also we're seeing all these extensions coming out. Am I right in saying just now that is the only player whose contract's up this summer at present? Is it just Benny Beningame then?
And Pierre Haring.
Haring as well, of course. Yeah, that's right. Yeah. So, so I mean, as we're seeing, like, there's definitely a sort of future proofing going on there, isn't there? In the fact that it was only a few months ago that the Hearts had 5, 6, 7 players out of contract. Obviously, a couple of loan players going back to their parent clubs as well. Now it's down to 2. Haring, I would think, might well be on his way out. You never know, though. Beningame would obviously. I mean, I'm a big fan of Beningame. I'd love him to stay, but we never know. I mean, it's no secret he sees his future in England somewhere down the line. And he is a quality player, but hopefully Hearts can maybe get another year or 2 out of him before that happens. So yeah, I think it's a really strong position to be in. Again, it means that come the summer, Hearts aren't going to be scrambling around for players just to fill out the squad. It's all very sensible.
Yeah, that's it.
I approve.
Yeah, it's continuity. Naismith's talked about it as well. He's been part of Hearts sides that have had to overhaul every summer or do big business in January. He doesn't want to be that. He doesn't want the team, the squad, the club to be like that. He wants continuity and then just add wee bits and bobs. And then you consider who Hearts rivals, always the rivals for third place going into every season, Aberdeen and Hibs. There's every chance that both clubs, both of their squads will be in a period of transition or overhaul, because you've got Nick Montgomery, it will only be his second transfer window, and they've got loads of loan players at the moment. It looks a wee bit messy. Then Aberdeen, who knows who their manager is going to be in the summer? Who knows where like someone like Miovski or Duke are going to be? So they look like they could have to do a lot of work, whereas Hearts, we may have to replace Lawrence Shankland. That might be a big undertaking, but we've got all the pieces who have been providing the platform for Shankland to succeed. So yeah, it's been positive squad building so far, and getting the contracts done, dusted quite early on, which is always good. Finally, let's just look ahead to the Scottish Cup clash with Airdrieonians at 5 p.m. on Sunday at, is it New Broomfield? Is that it? Or there might be a new name.
Is it not the Excelsior?
Oh, the Excelsior, yeah. It's, I think it's the New Broomfield, their old one. But anyway, yes, Hearts go to Championship Airdrieonians, and New Broomfield is the
That's not as much fun though, is it?
No, like Excelsior.
So you get the Scott Foam Stadium at Dens, or the Wire Stadium at Firhill. No, I'm calling it Firhill and I'm calling it Dens Park. I'm sorry.
Yeah, but it's Excelsior. Hearts going to Excelsior to play Airdrieonians in the Scottish Cup, and yeah, it's going to be a very tough match, because you look at Airdrieonians, they are 5th in the Championship. They're on a great run of form. They are unbeaten in 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7 games, including a 1-1 draw with Partick Thistle recently. A lot of people will be maybe not aware of Airdrie's squad, but I think a lot of people will be aware of their manager, Rhys McCabe, very young. He is player manager and he's done a great job, having been appointed to replace Ian Murray in 2022. He has a real philosophy in terms of possession, keeping possession, very possession orientated, and he doesn't seem to switch his tactics for who the team are playing. So he sticks with his style. Okay, he might make one tweaks here or there, but it's not as if he's going to go, oh, Hearts are coming to town, let's disregard the philosophy and just get 10 men behind the ball. So it'll be a really interesting encounter at the weekend. I'm really, really looking forward to it, despite Hearts' history in the 90s with Airdrie.
I know, I was going to say this. Like, I mean, I think it'll be a really good game of football. I think as a game of football, it'll be great fun. But part of me kind of goes, "Oh God, this has got banana skin written all over it." You know,
don't, James, don't.
I think that Airdrie, they're a really strange team. Like they're entertaining to watch, and like you say, they've got their principles and they stick to them, and they're not going to change for depending on the opponent. They're going to do what they always do. Sometimes it works and it's fantastic. You know, sometimes they move the ball about really quickly up the park, and it's brilliant to watch. It's really nice stuff. But the flip side of it is sometimes it leaves them horribly exposed at the back as well, or maybe they're trying to play out from the back with players that maybe aren't quite up to it, things like that. So I think that, I'm sure it'll be a fascinating game, but you're right though about Rhys McCabe. He's doing an absolutely brilliant job. He's got that really clear, defined tactical identity he's managed to instill in those players. He got them up into the Championship where I think they'd lost their last. I think they'd reached the playoff finals 5 times before, and they lost every single one or something like that. So he got them over that hump, got them into the league, and now they're at a stage in the Championship where they're not worried about relegation. I wouldn't think, unless the form dropped off massively, and actually they're now pushing for a spot in the playoffs, which wouldn't come as a huge surprise, to be honest. So I think that Rhys McCabe's done an absolutely wonderful job. There's no getting around it. The fact that he's done it at such a young age is really impressive. But yeah, I think for once going into a Hearts game, I'm actually quite confident of seeing goals, which isn't something we can always say. But if you look at Airdrie last season, so I think all in all they played about 50 games or so across all competitions, but not even that. And they scored something like 100 odd goals and conceded about 60. So it was about 4 goals a game, basically, you were getting. And then even this season, it's maybe not been quite as extreme as that, but you do get lots of goals, and they are a funny team because they'll have matches where they'll play teams off the park and they'll win 4-0, and then the next week they'll go and play somebody, and it'll just be an absolute mess. And they can, they've been on the receiving end of some absolute doings over the last year or two. So it's a fascinating game. It's really difficult to call, but I'm really looking forward to it. I just think as well in terms of Hearts' kind of setup and Naismith's selection. I know I've done my predicted lineup. Yeah, I've not seen yours, but I think Hearts will go back to a back 3 for this one. Just because again, I think it helps with the way that Hearts build out. I think that the way that Airdrie press, I think it's really important to have those options and to have those passing lanes that the back 3 gives you. I think it just helps Hearts progress up the park, because I think. I think we'll probably see the back 3, even though we have seen the back 4 over the last 5 games now. Is that right?
Yeah, just trying to think. Yeah, thereabouts. But yeah, it's. I've not actually got round to thinking about my starting 11. I do know. I know there'll be changes, but not like wholesale changes. It'll be a team that is sent out to very much win. So like he's not going to rest Shankland and play Tagawa in attack, for example. But yeah, the defence is really interesting because you look at. Halkett was on the bench at the weekend. Midweek. Kingsley came off after the hour because I think he was cramping up a bit, maybe. And you've got Kent. Kai Rolls comes back into the picture. Nathaniel Atkinson comes back into the picture. Cammy Devlin might even get minutes while he gets his first starting a wee while as well, having been back on the bench against St Johnstone as well. So yeah, there's plenty to think about. Automatically, I'll just go with a back 4, maybe make a change here or there. But yeah, it would be interesting to see what he goes for. With Airdrie, I think you summed up. They're a perplexing team, because you go back to last season where they one week they got beat 6-0 by Edinburgh City. The next week they beat Clyde 5-0. They got beat by Montrose 4-2. Then a few days later they drew 3-3 with Queen of the South, and then they got beat 6-2 by Dundee in the Scottish Cup. They won 4-2 at Montrose. They got beat by 5-3 at home to Edinburgh City. They got beat 4-3 by Dunfermline. They beat Kelty 6-1. They beat Peterhead 7-0. They beat Clyde 5-1, and then they beat Falkirk 6-2 in the playoffs. So they were a very chaotic and exciting team. But I just wonder, just looking at their transition from that, and that being McCabe's first season, they came into the Championship, and they got beat 4-0 by Arbroath, and at the same it got beat 4-3 by Ross County. So they still had that kind of chaoticness, but more recently they've not scored that many goals, but they've also not conceded many goals. That unbeaten run it just looks a bit more normal. So I don't know if they're kind of have found a wee bit of a balance. So I actually think rather than goals, I think it'll be a good game, but I think it'll be a bit more chess-like.
Yeah, that's disappointing. I hope you're wrong. But no, I don't want Airdrie to calm down. I want him to continue just being a bit mad. It's a lot of fun for the rest of us.
Yeah, absolutely. It's fun for the rest of us as long as we don't get knocked out on Sunday. We'll leave it there. We'll be back on Monday to review the game from Sunday, and we'll know before the game kicks off. We'll know who Hearts could play in the next round of the cup.
That's asking for trouble there. Will don't like that.
For some reason, the draw is taking place before the game, but I'm unsure why. So I think it's going to be a really interesting game. It's probably, you look at the fixtures in the Scottish Cup, probably the game of the weekend, understandably picked up by the BBC. In terms of the Airdrie's starting 11, there might not be too many recognisable names, but Nikolai Todorov is their central striker, which gives them a direct target to hit when they do look to beat the press of an opposition. So he's a former Hearts player, and it'll be really, really interesting. I think it'll be a big crowd there, so looking forward to it. Do you have a score prediction, as Craig asks?
I'm going to stick with goals. I'll go 3-1 to Hearts. I think it'll be quite good fun. But I think Hearts to get over the line without too much fuss. Touch wood.
I think it'll be 2-0, 0-0 at half time.
0-0 at half time.
Yeah.
Old reliable.
Goal in the first 10 minutes of the second half, and then a goal late on. So that's my prediction. Before we move, John asks, not football related, have you ever noticed the Tommy Cooper-esque look with your light shade, James? Yep, we've noticed it before. Yes,
sadly, yes. I should really just get a new one, but I'm stuck with it now. It's quickly becoming part of my brand. What can I say?
Yeah, I enjoy it. Right, thank you very much, James, and thank you very much, everyone, for listening to this chaotic-esque podcast or video. We'll be back, like I said, on Monday. Between now and then, there'll be plenty of stuff going up on the website. We'll have the press conferences, Q&As from today. Stephen Naismith and Craig Gordon spoke. We'll have a big read on Macaulay Tait now that he's signed a new deal. That should hopefully be going out tomorrow. And we'll be looking more in depth at Airdrieonians. That'll probably go out on Sunday as well. And then next week, we'll have all the usual analysis, plus a few things in the pipeline as well. So, have a good weekend, guys, and goodbye.